Hello. Now I'm going to have to try and be concise on this one because I've got three things I want to talk about. The first one is yesterday and the day before I came across examples of, in writing, reading on the internet, people using the word then instead of the word than. I first mentioned it must have been 8 years ago. And I said then that it was very, very odd that such a decent word like then is being used wrong. And I would be vaguely interested if you started seeing it as well. I'm sure it came out of California about probably 10 years ago. And it's getting more and more because the article I saw it on yesterday, it was certainly a Brit doing it because it was talking about Brexit. And he used, and it was a he, used then instead of than. Very odd. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is this. I came across it this morning reading the comments. That's what I do in the mornings, drink tea and read comments. I'll read the whole comment quickly. You don't have to understand it. The thing I'm going to pull out is right in the middle. Ryanair, which is the airline, started life in the mid-80s when Thatcher wanted more competition in the skies and allowed them to fly in and out of Luton. We've had 30 years of neoliberalism for all the good and bad that has brought us. Perhaps Ryanair is the canary in the coal mine, showing that organised labour still is a force to be reckoned with. There is hope if you are strong, determined and organised. I hope Michael has a present, Christmas and all that sort of stuff. Strangely, the thing that stuck at me reading this comment was perhaps Ryanair is the canary in the coal mine. Now, it's not a typo because I'm sure coal mine, which is the normal, you get canary in the coal mine, is the normal thing. This is cold mine. And I'm sure that's not one of these text correcting things. I think what's happened is that this, probably a man again, so I'll say him, he has heard it in conversation, learned how it's to be used, and uses it, and probably uses it like he has here, in the right place and at the right time, but he doesn't know how to spell it because he doesn't know the provenance of the expression. So it just occurred to me to mention in the video here that this is how we act. This is, how we act as people. You've got people like me, maybe the older people. It seems ridiculous for me to say that I'm old because I don't feel in the slightest a bit old, but you know what I mean. I understand that it's canary in the coal mine, and I understand why it is canary in the coal mine. I understand where the expression came from. There'll be other people, let's say intermediate people, the generation in between people like me and people in their 20s, who will say canary in the coal mine and use it. We're all using it in the right place, but they won't understand why they're saying it. They won't understand where the expression canary in the coal mine came from. And now we've got, I'm making it up that he's a young person, but now we've got a young person that can say canary in the coal mine, again, using it in exactly the right place and in the right way, but just saying it slightly wrong. But everybody understands what he's saying. Again, I knew I was going to get to this moment in the video and thought I might be able to carry on intelligently. About speech and about people, we just reactively do things. so many things that are written, that we write and say and things, we write and say them in the right way. They're understandable because we've heard them from different places. We've understood how they should be used. So we kind of recombine them and use them. And it does make sense, let's say in a, not alphabetical, in a grammatical sort of way. The whole thing makes sense. And because we've put the right things in the right places, the actual sentence makes sense. You know, in advance, the cat sat on the mat. I mean, it makes sense. The canary in the coal mine and all that, we can say, like I read comments below on mine, the words are in the right places grammatically, and in some sort of wild imagination you could think that the words should go together and make sense, but they don't. It is possible. It's not possible, it's just what happens. What happens in normal life is that we go round talking absolute bollocks. There's ways of talking. You can talk and not understand what you're saying, the equivalent of canary in the coal mine. It will be understood and it will convey a certain amount of information, but you can do this by not understanding at all what your words are actually meaning. You use words, even new modern recombined words, this is possible, you can use them, and to a certain it's very hard to explain, it kind of makes sense. You read it and you get a lot of this, it's a huge amount in comments that I read. It kind of makes sense but doesn't make sense. That's the thing. It makes sense. You can read it and go, I think I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense because it's absolute bullshit. It's nonsense. It's just not based on any foundation of reality. The whole thing that's being said hasn't been created out of what we call facts. They are just words that have been linked together almost just grammatically in the right place and said. And I think what I'm saying is there are so many different ways of us expressing ourselves, and so many of these expressions of ourselves that I read in comments are just words put together, but they're not based on any factual understanding. They're just like a child repeating words that she's heard from the parents. And, you know, when they get to a certain age, they get to be able to say them just about right, but they don't understand what they're saying. And that is what so many of these comments are. They're words being used with no understanding of what each of the words actually mean. And I think that's the way most communication is done. Anyway, the third thing I wanted to do, which was the main thing I wanted to do, how long have I been? Oh, I've done 10 minutes already almost. Anyway, I'll push on. Is beliefs, because I bumped into this yesterday as well. I bumped into the two different types of karma, using the word karma. There's a type of karma which is kind of, let's say, the Chinese type karma, where it's very much more like luck, or the gods willed it. Why did this bad thing happen? Because it was karma, meaning that shit happens. Bad luck, or the gods willed it that way. And there's the kind of, this is very, especially due to time, very iffy way of saying it, the Indian type of karma, which is more, the shit happened, but it was because of things that happened in the past. That's basically one way of saying it. And you've got, I thought of the other example would be God wills, which you can have the Christian example or the Muslim example, which most people think is inshallah, where it is, well, that is the will of God. The bad thing happened because it was the will of God. But the thing I wanted to note, and I've got to it reasonably quickly, is that, let's say the Muslims, it's they, which way should we go? The positive way? We'll go the positive and then state the negative and then tidy up. The positive way would be to say that, yes, this is what the Muslims believe, and it's what we would call fatalism, because it's the will of God. Whatever happens, it is the will of God, all right? But these Muslims came out of Mecca and Medina and down there and conquered all across Africa and all around the Middle East and all sorts of things. They kicked ass and were very important for an awful long time. That's kind of the positive thing. And then they're not easy to defeat, these Muslim areas, in war, because they're quite good at it. They're not very good at it because they're not, they haven't got the Western advanced technology, but they're not a pushover. Now, this is what I was trying to get to. This is what I'm saying here is this, inshallah, God, it's just God's will. We call it fatalistic. When I say it in kind of a mystic philosophy that I might put out, you say, well, it's a fatalistic. You go on with things like that and people won't get out of bed and do things, and what's the point, and all that sort of thing. But we don't say it for them. If we're going into fight with a Muslim lot that think that way, that it's all God's will, whether they're going to win the battle or lose the battle, they will be cleaning their guns and sharpening their knives. And what you've got in this world on Earth, China's a bit dodgy because of their political turmoil, but I think their mentality is a variation on karma or Joss or God wills, variation on, but certainly the other religious type people, the majority in this world of people believe that bad things happen because it's the will of God or the gods, or that's the way luck must be. That's the prevailing. And the question I'm going to I ask here now is, do we really think that mentally we are better off when a bad thing happens, analysing it and pointing the finger of blame at either a person or something like a metal joist that was the cause of it? Now, or are we mentally, is it better to say it was the will of God? But then behind the scenes, don't think that these religious people don't have their inquiries to find out who did wrong and find out the metal joist that gave way. What I'm saying is, haven't they got something right, having this easy saying of it's the will of God? Isn't that mentally marvellous? Isn't that a good thing to have? There, I'm under 15 minutes, so we'll call that quits. Right, bye.